Welcome to Healthcare Forward, where industry leaders, benefit advisors, and healthcare professionals come together and discuss the changing landscape of commercial health plans. Brought to you by Roundstone Insurance, the first group captive for health insurance, where smarter self-funding meets long-term savings. I'm Mike Schroeder, founder and president of Roundstone Insurance. Hello, this is Mike Schroeder, president of Roundstone, and I'm here with our podcast, Healthcare Forward, and I have a special guest today, Jay Booth, president of Capital Group Benefits. Jay, do you mind introducing yourself and sharing with the audience where you're from, what you do, and a little bit about your background?
So yeah, Jay Booth, president of Capital Group Benefits. I'm outside the D.C. marketplace. Most of it's Northern Virginia, Maryland, D.C. Our story and our efforts travel across the country, so we have clients all over the country, but for the most part, we're in the DMV.
Great. Do you always sell benefits your whole career, or have you done some other things?
I've always been an entrepreneur. I spent 3 years in corporate America and realized that wasn't for me. So in my early days, I used to own restaurants, and I had 3 restaurants, and I quickly realized that I am somewhat equity rich and cash poor. So I decided to transition, had a corporate job for a while, and then I transitioned to insurance, and it's been a great run, Mike, for 25 years. All
right, so you know something about self-funding. Is that true?
A little bit.
That's a rumor I heard.
Yeah.
Huh? What if you, let's start crazy here. What if you had to pick one thing that would change self-funding today, what would it be?
I think our biggest issue is probably the way to answer that question is RX. RX spend used to be 8-12% of someone's total claim spend, and now it's not uncommon that it's 28 or 32%. So if we could solve the RX issue in this country, that would be the answer. That would be the silver bullet if there is one, Mike.
Great. All right, I want to shift a little bit into a focus on your clients, the employers and their employees. What are they bringing to you today? What are they saying to you? What do they like? What do they don't like? What's the message that they're sharing with you?
Well, there's a tremendous amount of messages out there. As a really good advisor, we got to be great at listening. Right? I think sometimes advisors go into a prospect meeting thinking it's all about cost. It's not always about cost. Cost is critical. We have to keep the lights on. You're self-employed, I'm self-employed. To be a great employer, we have to keep the lights on, right? But at the same time, we have to have great value for our employees and great culture. So I think listening first and foremost is what is that CEO or that HR professional looking to do? Are they trying to improve the benefits, lower co-pays, control cost, all the above? So that's sort of where we start. That's how we approach it initially.
Why do your new clients, why are they talking to you? Are they upset with their current broker, or it just seems a lot of times their current broker might be a relative, an uncle or something?
Yeah,
like
we
that.
do.
So why do they talk to you, Jay?
It's funny you say that because, the number one thing we get a lot when we meet people the first time is, well, I love my broker. And it's honestly, most of the time that's just defense. After a few meetings, you realize they don't love their broker. They just put a little defense up there. And we have picked up new clients where someone was a relative, but that relative was more transactional. So what we're seeing out there in the market is you cannot continue at double-digit increases in the fully insured space. It's not sustainable. I mean, real simple math, if a group has $1 million in premium and they have what would be considered, and this is laughable, Mike, what would be considered a good renewal is 10%, right? Isn't that a joke?
Yeah, that's $100,000.
It's $100,000, and we got CEOs and HR goes, wow, we had a good year. Only 10%. It's $100,000. Who's picking up the $100,000? The owner? How many years can that owner pick up that $100,000 before he hits what I call a threshold, and they're ready to do something else? How many years can those employees pick up that $100,000 if the owner is not pro-employee before they look for new employment, right? So what we're seeing in the marketplace is more and more groups are trying to understand what else is available in the market so we can be great to our employees. Jay,
what finally motivates an employer to make a change with an advisor?
Well, I think most of the time it's cost related, but not always. Don't fall for the head fake, Mike. What people got to learn to understand, and they're starting to, is being self-insured gives you more control of the cash flow. And from a financial standpoint, it's almost a no-brainer. It's tremendous how much visibility you get to the claims and how you can improve your cost point in employee benefits going in this direction. But more and more folks are understanding, the astute ones are understanding the value you can do for your employees. It's bringing more value. So I have more and more HR folks leaning forward with us saying, I've learned I can improve the benefits and it doesn't impact the cost. I learned I can improve my level of attention and service to employees. So there's really two sides of it. From an HR perspective, there's a lot of great wins here. And from a P&L perspective, there's a lot of great wins here.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. That's got to be a nice message that the HR can help out the employees and reduce their cost. I imagine that's a winning message for you. If you're an employer out there, what advice would you give them? Like, what kind of red flags are out there that they should say, hey, I need to really consider looking at who my benefit advisor is?
Well, I got a good one for you here. We hear it all the time. We'll walk into a group and they'll say, well, my broker says we're not a good fit for self-insured. And I love that because as long as you give me the opportunity to ask some follow-up questions, well, why? Why did they say that? Well, Jay, we had a large claim last year. Or, well, Jay, we have an aging population. It's not really good for us. I respectfully disagree. We have insurance on your self-insured program. You realize that. We have the guardrails, okay? So we have the protection in place. And we're not afraid of claims, Mike. Claims are going to happen, whether you're fully insured or self-insured or level funded. Claims are going to happen. But isn't it neat that with our program, when you're self-insured, you have visibility to the claim? Would you consider that valuable? Of course so. And if you have visibility and transparency to the claim, do you think we might be able to do something about it? And the answer many times is yes. So we hear that a lot, that I'm not a good fit for it.
So if a advisor is not sharing with an employer, hey, we need to look closely at whether self-funding in a captive is a good choice for us, then there probably should be looking for another advisor. Would you agree with that?
I won't go as bold as that. I would say dive a little deeper. Why are they saying that? So now let me be bold for a moment, okay? What are they protecting, Mike? If that advisor is saying you're not a good fit, is it true? Or is it not a good fit for them? Do they not have the ability to install and service a product like this? Are they protecting their fully insured bonus that they're getting? I would encourage the market to ask a follow-up question.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about self-funding. Frequently, when I speak to an employer, I'll hear, well, I had a bad past experience, or, I heard it's too much work. There's a whole list of objections that these employers tend to share. And I wanted for you to kind of touch on a few of them and say, hey, the misconception of that it's too risky or too much work, or, this thing called a laser will bankrupt you. Can you just touch on some of those ideas that really kind of scare people away from self-funding and how you approach those areas?
Well, everyone approaches this with the word risk. They think it's risky. The fact is they don't understand it, and that's okay. They've been doing fully insured for a decade. They've been getting 10 to 15 to 18% over and over and over for a decade. It's all they know, Mike. And they hear self-insured and they think bankruptcy. And they think, well, what if there's a claim for $1 million? And I say, you have insurance to protect you on that, right? So we overcome a lot of those misconceptions in the market. But I think what happens when someone opens up and listens and we have a nice dialogue for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, they quickly learn that there's nothing risky about this. Your program's $1 million today, for example, right? With any fully insured carrier. Are you getting the data to justify that 12% increase? No. Right? So 12 points on $1 million is $120,000. I think it's risky staying in that situation. I think you're shifting costs to employees. I think you're raising deductibles. I think that's your failed strategy. It's not risky if it's still $1 million, okay, in a self-insured program. $1 million versus $1 million, same math, right? But what if over 50% of that million you had absolute visibility to the claim data, and you and I could work together and build plan designs that was better for your employees? Get your employees to the doctor more often. I know that sounds silly, right? We don't want to pay claims.
Counterintuitive, maybe.
Mike, we want to pay claims in the self-insured platform. I want your employees to be healthy. I want to lower copays. I want lower drug expenses. I want lower access to urgent care. I want cost containment strategies, because that same $1 million that we're talking about, you might retain 30% of it in our platform. And if you're not that healthy this year, you're going to spend $1 million the same.
What about the idea that this is just too much work? Is that valid?
All change is work. So let's just be honest with the audience. If we're going to make a change, right, it's going to be a little work. But what if I said I could trade a little bit more effort today, just today, a little bit more effort to put in this program? You get it all back tenfold in the future. So what does that mean? Now your HR department gets the renewal not 60 days out. How about maybe 4 months out? Wouldn't you like that? How about you don't have to shop with 6 different carriers, Blue Cross, United Healthcare, Cigna, maybe Kaiser, Aetna, anyone else in your market, and do the dance every single year. You're getting all the data. Every single month, Mike, you're getting the data. So you know what your renewal is going to look like. You're going to get it 4 months in advance. And this is a unbundled approach when we put our clients inside of a captive. If you don't like your TPA, just change out your TPA. If you don't like your pharmacy benefit manager, just change them out. It's all interchangeable. So our open enrollments as an advisor, so let me answer the question a little bit deeper. As an advisor and as HR. As advisor, it's tremendous. So any advisors tuning in today, my fourth quarters are way better than your fourth quarters. I guarantee it, okay? They're very smooth. From an HR perspective, HR folks in this program, their renewal is very transparent and very smooth, opposed to quoting 6 different carriers every single year.
Kind of sounds like to me that once you get your arms around it and you understand the process, it could actually become less work because you have a better idea of what's going to happen. It's a little more predictable, a little less unknown, and it's not so much last minute. It always shocks me when I hear about how some insurance companies are delivering renewals in the 11th month. And talk about stress and work. That to me seems like a lot of work.
All of that is true. And I'd like to piggyback on just a little bit more. It's easy to say when we're presenting this that it's a higher level of service and HR is going to love this part of the program, but they don't know it until they know it. So at some point during the year, I'm going to get a phone call. And it's going to be from HR or the employee directly hitting me up on my cell phone. And something's wrong because insurance is complicated, right? Sometimes. And it's 5:30 on a Friday afternoon, and they're at the pharmacy and the drug's not going through. The drug's not going through because the doctor didn't put the PA in, the prior authorization, very standard. On a fully insured program, I can't fix that on a Friday night. I've got to call what I joke the mothership, right? United Healthcare, Aetna, Blue Cross, name one of them. You think I'm getting a call back on a 5:30 on a Friday? No. Even if I do you think they're going to approve the prior authorization? No chance. It's going to be a couple of days into next week. So that employee goes home without their medications on the weekend. Is that a good thing, Mike? No. Inside the captive, I can send a text message or a phone call to the pharmacy benefit manager on a Friday night, and we can fix that in less than 5 minutes. That employee goes home with their medications. We have control in this program. So when HR learns that, they can't learn that in a first conversation. They have to live that. When they live that, they love it.
Jay, I want to talk a little bit about the HR function and your message to them, and when you talk about self-funding, some of the value that you can bring to them that, candidly, I think is a home run.
Yeah, and so it's interesting because HR resists change. They're very paternalistic in a good way. We love our HR folks. They care deeply about the employees. And when they understand the value of this, it's a huge win for them. So from an HR perspective, you have a $75 copay for a specialist. That's not uncommon, Mike. Urgent care is $100. It's not uncommon. How neat would it be if we said, what would you like your $75 copay to be? You want to make it $20? And they look at me just like you did and go, we can do that? Yeah, and it doesn't impact the price. You have control over your plan design to some degree. So many times what we end up doing the first year is we improve the benefits. We lower the copay for RX. We lower the copay for urgent care. We lower the copay for your specialist visit and your primary care visit, right? How do you think that meeting goes with the employees?
Yeah.
Right? How about another win for HR? From a service standpoint, nothing more frustrated when an employee can't get access to their drugs and it takes the fully insured carrier a week to work with the doctor to get the pre-authorization paperwork or step therapy or whatever it may be. All that red tape, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just give me a text, I'll get a hold of the pharmacy manager, and those things literally can be fixed in 5 or 10 minutes. And they love that.
So it would be false for an HR person to think that self-funding, even though it's very helpful to the P&L, is going to somehow be a negative for the employees. It's quite frankly, it sounds like it's the opposite.
Yeah, let me paint a perfect example. We have a child on a group that had some physical therapy, and in all plan design documents, we know that's the SPD, the summary plan description. All of them have caps, 25, 30, 35. So the cap's 30 visits. And the child, they met the cap, but they still needed physical therapy. So I get a call from the employee. I call the owner of the company in HR. We look at the claims. We're running pretty good. We were going to spend $500,000 in claims. We're trending to only spend $350,000. That's a good year. Can we modify the plan on the fly? Can we make this 50 visits this year? And HR is blown away. I'm like, yeah, all we got to do is update the SPD. Now, that's a change for everybody. We don't make, it's not just for that one person. Everybody gets increased benefits. But how cool is that HR, myself, and the business owner, they're empowered to make that change on the fly. You can't do that in the fully insured space.
The power of control.
So how great can we actually be to our employees? And when you're in this program, year 2, 3, 4, I love the transition of the client, whether it's the owner, the HR, and how they start to, I joke, become part of the conversation.
Right.
So Mary HR will come to me in like say month 18 and say, Jay, we've got 18 diabetics. I'm like, yeah, I know. And did you see what I saw? 14 of them didn't get their annual physical. Yeah. That's why I'm here today. We see the same thing. Let's talk about motivating folks to get their wellness visits, because don't we want to get our employees healthy? Yes. We want to avoid what?
Yeah.
Large claim.
Yeah.
How do we avoid large claim, Mike?
Got to go see the doc.
And be great to your employees. So I just love that transition. When HR meets me the first time, they're a little like, I don't know. I don't love change. And then they're in the program a few months later and they see all the goodies that they get. And they're like, man, this has been good change.
Yeah. Happy employees, happy HR, right?
Absolutely.
Good. You know, Jay, I listen to you talk, and we've had a lot of conversations over the years. And I guess the question I have, and I'm sure maybe our audience is thinking the same thing, is this is like a no-brainer. Between the two choices of status quo, and even from the perspective of being an advisor or an employer, but why would anybody stay in an environment of status quo with double-digit increases, or move into an environment which you can have control, you can receive data, and you can save money and take better care of your employees? It just seems like a no-brainer. So, what is it that's caused? Even to this day, less than half of the middle market employers in our country are self-funded. So there's still a huge roadway for us both to get out there and spread the good word. But why is that? Why people don't make this change?
Because the advisors that are representing the market that you speak of don't understand how to do it. And there's some motivation for them not to understand it. Okay? Let me share a really quick example of a client of mine. Not a very large group, maybe about 75 enrolled. Not a healthy group either. Okay? So they're running close to the max. Okay? I bring him some fully insured options just to kind of show him what the market looks like, doing my job as an advisor. He looked me dead in the eye, Mike, looked at what my paperwork right here. He could see the Blue Cross and United Healthcare Cigna logos, and he says to me, Jay, don't even show me fully insured. Right? His name's Robert. I said, Robert, I'm just trying to make sure I'm doing my due diligence for you. He goes, Jay, we've been in this program for years. Some years I win, some years I break even, but I never lose. He says the fully insured game is an unwinnable game. It's 8 to 12 points every year, never going back. And I'll never forget that quote, unwinnable game.
Sounds like Vegas.
Yeah.
The house always wins, right?
Right. The house
Yeah.
always wins.
Well, I've been in insurance my whole career, and I can tell you that's usually the case. The house wins most often.
I had a really large group quoted fully insured with a carrier, and they DQ'd them. Self-insured. They DQ'd the self-insured. I got a call the next day. It says, we'll write it fully insured. I said, hold on a second here. You're not going to provide an opportunity to go for the group to go self-insured, but you'll do fully insured? And he said, and we can talk about lasers now if you want, we can kind of segue. He says, yeah, because we know those lasers aren't going to hit, and we're going to make money on the group. Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Hey, that's where they're making their money. You know. Yeah, so you mentioned lasers. Let's talk about it. It's one of the areas that scares some people away from self-funding. What is a laser, first off, and then two, what's your view of a laser? Good, bad?
So I think lasers, I'm a very pro-laser advisor. I think that you should pay what you deserve. And what does that mean? That knife cuts both ways. If you're a well-managed self-insured group, you're going to love what you pay, and you deserve to pay those rates because you're being well-managed. And we can talk a little bit more about what is well-managed. If you're not well-managed, you're going to pay a little bit more money because you're not doing anything about it, right? Well, a laser helps us be well-managed. So, for example, let's say we have one employee with a very significant health condition. That employee would have a higher specific deductible tied to them. So we joke, tied to the belly button. So Mike, if I may use you as an example, you're the employee in this example, and you're going through some really serious stuff. So instead of having a $50,000 self-insured spec on every employee, yours is $150,000. We can isolate that risk. Now, what I love about this is maybe we can get you healthy, Mike. What if you leave my company, Mike? Does the risk leave too?
Sure does.
It absolutely does.
Right.
Right? Let's reverse it. Let's say we're fully insured. Am I going to pay that $150,000 in higher fixed costs because of that large claim? Absolutely. They're going to be built into the price, right? But Mike, let's say it's built into the price. You're my employee. I paid a lot more money in healthcare costs because you have a lot going on in your life. And then you leave me in 3 months. Do my rates come down, Mike?
No.
No.
They never come down.
How does that even make sense? If I own a company with hundreds of employees and I really knew how it worked, I would be so livid. They charged me an extra $150,000 for Mike Schroeder because he had a heart attack. And Mike Schroeder doesn't work for me 2 months later, and they won't lower my rates? I thought insurance was mitigating risk, right? Paying dollars to mitigate risk. Who won in that example?
The insurance company. It's a free $100,000.
So when you're self-insured and you have that transparency to the data, and the information can be de-identified as well. So anyone in the audience saying, "Oh, what about names?" I can look at it with the names. You can look at it de-identified. But what if I go to you and I say, "We got one employee with a large claim, and here's how we want to handle it." So many cool solutions to control cost.
I think I've shared with you before, but we analyze the lasers in our book of business and to see like how many are actually paid. To your point, how many are individual deductibles where the member leaves or never needs the care or whatever. And it's just about only half the time that the employer actually has to come out of pocket on a lasered individual. I mean, 54% I think is the exact number. And so that just says that almost half the time the employer is saving money with a laser.
Yeah.
Now, they have a choice. If they'd rather put it in a fixed cost and pay it, we'll do that for them. But, I tend to agree with you that that's not the best move to do. But
we had a group with you, and you guys did a really wonderful thing for me, and this was a few years back. There was there's a large group. They had a $400,000 increase in fixed cost because we couldn't identify, because they were coming from fully insured, couldn't identify the individual with the laser, with the condition. And we were able to do it, and we worked together, your team and my team, and we ended up putting a laser, reducing the cost by $400,000. Fixed cost. We reduced it, put a laser on there for $225,000, tied to that one person. That one person spent $16,000 over the next 12 months in medical cost.
Wow, that's
What a
win.
huge win.
Huge win.
Can you imagine if we left the $400,000 in fixed? Welcome to fully insured. That's exactly what fully insured does to you.
Just shows you that self-funding opportunity. It's all about control. And the only way you're going to beat this healthcare claim costs, I think you would agree, is through control, taking action. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about how you take care of your customers. You know, you mentioned earlier, like when you're looking at your advisor, if they sometimes can be transactional or as opposed to consultative. I think it's pretty clear you take the approach of, I want to be your counselor. I want to help you through this process and look for ways to save money. How does an employer know which advisor they have? I've got a transactional advisor, or I have a advisor like Capital Group's benefits that's more consultative.
I think it's a little bit of the line of questioning. How the conversation's going. If your broker shows up once a year with a renewal, that's very transactional, right? If your broker's telling you you're not a good fit, right, that's very transactional. If your broker's meeting with you on a quarterly basis and asking you questions around your cost control, your cost containment, what you're trying to accomplish around employee benefits, that's our approach. That's more consultative, right? And we're agnostic to what you ultimately decide to do. We have fully insured clients. We have level funded clients, HSAs, HRAs, captive, straight self-insured. But what we're really passionate about, Mike, is making sure that our clients know exactly what's available in the market, everything from A to Z. And we hope we answer all your questions, make sure you're comfortable, and wherever you want to be on what we call the path, we install it and we service the heck out of it. But over time, with our clients, they quickly come to think like us. And they say, you know what? What am I doing here in the fully insured space? I think I'm ready, right? Not everybody. I mean, let's be honest. Some people overpay for things. And when you're fully insured, someone could joke you're overpaying for convenience.
Right. Let's talk about that path. I know you've mentioned that before. What is the path of an employer, and when do they have that kind of aha moment? Can you share a little bit about
Yeah, so we create a thing we call the path, right? So if you think about it just visually for a moment, left to right, the first step on the path is you're fully insured. The next step is you're doing some sort of consumer-driven healthcare, HSAs, HRAs. The next step on the path is level funded, and the next step is being self-insured, whether you're in a captive or true ASO. And everyone's on that path somewhere, right? So why are you there? And where would you like to be in the next year, 2, 3, or 4, or 5? And asking the right questions to identify why they're there. Do they understand what's available? Helps guide us where they should be on the path. And it's really, really interesting, Mike. We'll go into a meeting, and you might see someone go right from the fully insured all the way to the captive because they get it. They go, wait a minute, hold on a second. Why am I going to take these 2 steps? I just go right here. And other folks like, you know what? We're like 15 years, Jay, behind. We're very conservative. We would like to put in an HSA. Like, okay, we can do that. But we all know that was 2004. Right. You know, that's when law became effective in HSAs. So some groups are just a little bit behind, and that's okay. We meet them where they're at. But we hope we built enough trust to say, when I'm ready, Jay, I'll go in this direction. Until then, hold my hand and help me. So we see it all in the market.
Have you ever bumped into a employer where you say, you know what, I'm not the guy for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that question. That's a great one. We firmly believe you need to be pro-employee and pro-bottom line. That's my slogan. So what do we mean by that? Of course we have to be pro-bottom line. We got to pay the bills. We got to watch cost, but we have to do it in a way that we're great to the employees. So if you're not one of those, if you're just all pro-bottom line and you don't care about your employees, if I care about your employees more than you, Mike, something's wrong, right? Not a good fit for us. The second red flag for us is when a group pays 50% of the single premium. Mike, fully insured rates, $800, $1,000 a month. Family rates, $2,500. I've seen some for $4,000. That's $50,000 a year. How can an employer, a company, pay 50% of an $800 rate? That's $400. and the family rate's $3,000. You're telling me the employee's paying $2,600 a month for health care to add his spouse and children? So when I see that, I know right away that this employer is doing the bare minimum. So I'm actually helping the employees more than the employer, which I'm fine with because I'm very pro-employee, but they're not a good fit for what we teach. I want to find groups that want to be great to their employees.
All right. So every employer has a couple different, what we call personas, CEOs, CFOs, and HR. What should each of those folks remember when they're going about selecting their advisor? And it's probably a different answer for each one, I might guess.
I don't know if it's a different answer. I think the real big misconception when you're selecting an advisor is in the fully insured market, all the rates are the same. If you work with me or you work with a guy down the street, the carrier's going to share the same exact rates if we're sending in the same data. So why are you picking? Don't pick them on rates. Because guess what, Mike? You decide the rate. What's your copay? What's your deductible? What's your network, HMO, PPO? You decide the rate. The advisor installs it and services it. That's how you should pick the advisor if you're really simple and you're in the fully insured space. Pick an advisor when you want to move into a self-insured space. Make sure they've got a lot of experience in that. They understand lasers and spec and ag, and they understand how to navigate and make sure you're well managed.
So you and I, Jay, are kind of the old gray hairs in the marketplace.
We made it.
Yeah,
we're old.
Yeah. And there's new folks joining the industry all the time. And one message I like to give them is, there's times where we can feel really good about what we do, where we help out an employee, a family member, an employer. And I wondered if you have any stories where you can share where you drove home that day and said, you know what? I like my job. I was able to help somebody out.
I absolutely love that part of it. Another thing that separates one advisor to another is tied to this question. We just chase attaboys. That's what we talk about at the office all the time. Chasing attaboys. And I got a little funny thing. I haven't said this in a long time, but I would talk to the team for years. I said, Ronald Reagan had this tax code, the trickle-down effect. Whether you're pro or against it, it's irrelevant. It was a trickle-down effect. Well, with customer service, we call it the trickle-up effect. I don't care who calls me. Every employee gets our cell phone number. You call me on a weekend, you call me at night, you call me early in the morning, I help you. I service whatever's going on, lost ID card to a claim issue, right? It trickles up to HR. It trickles up to the owner of the company. We don't lose business, Mike, because we do the right thing. We chase the attaboys, and we love it. And I've got the best thing I can do is I'm in a meeting someone new, and we're like, oh, I'm Jay Booth. I'm the president of Capital Group Benefits, and we believe in customer service. Really? Isn't everyone great at customer service? Isn't that what they say? How about pull out your cell phone, right? If Mike Schroeder is sitting across from me and says, hey, Jay, our broker's pretty hands-on. Love that. We're pretty hands-on, too. Actually, let me pull out my cell. Look at the text I got. I'm telling you, I can show you a text on any given day where an employee of a company reached out to me, and it was probably after hours, and we responded.
Yeah, recently I felt really good. We had a HR director in here from one of our employer participants, and talked to a bunch of different folks, but wanted to go meet with the customer service representative that they've been working with and helping them get onboarded and organized. And when they saw each other, they hugged each other. And I thought, wow, that's customer service. Yeah. When your customers are hugging your folks because it helped them along in the process, and that makes you feel good that there's that bond.
When we know we're doing the right thing is when our clients are inviting us to their picnics or clam bakes or a movie night. We just had one recently. We were invited to a movie night, and we say that a lot when we're meeting with groups. It's like, listen, we want to be hands-on. We want to build great rapport with your employees, because if we build great rapport with your employees, we can manage through the tough times, because tough times come. High claims come. Challenges come in this world, in healthcare. And if they know who I am, they'll take my call and they'll entrust me to help them. So it was really cool. We got invited to a movie night the other night with a group, and we did a little happy hour. Then we watched the newest Mission Impossible, which is a pretty good movie, by the way. I recommend it. But just to get to meet the employees out of the office is so beneficial when something goes off the rails.
Yeah, I totally agree. All business relationships always have a few bumps in the road, and if you can pick up the phone and work through it, it makes it a lot better.
That's the attaboy.
It's a philosophy that I follow as well. We just had another situation like that where someone had done some research on us, and the first words out of the lady's mouth was, "You got to be the only health insurance company I know that actually people like." I said, "Well,
that's great.
It's a different model. We're working
Yeah.
for you, and we're paying you back the money in your savings, so it's a little different than maybe what they'd experienced." So, well, Jay, I really appreciate you spending some time with us today. And before you go, I do know you're also in your big member guest tournament, and you're a big golfer. And I want to wish you luck, and I hope you bring home the trophy.
There will be no trophy this year. I am playing with my son-in-law, Jake. So shout out to Jake. He's super excited. He's new to golf, and his index is 23. So all the golfers in the world know that that's not a great golfer, and he probably should be a 33. So the beer will be cold, the food will be good, and we'll have a great time nonetheless.
Well, I appreciate your time, Jay, and thanks for being a great partner.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Good seeing you.